What's going on, everybody? And we're here with James Furman. This is a guy I've befriended over Facebook. We've been chatting, building relationship over time, and now we're here. We're on a podcast. We're going to be talking about business, life, fitness, all those cool things. And if you're looking to get into a business, or you're trying to understand business, or you're trying to understand, how do you mentally get through a lot of those challenges? I mean, James and I, we're going to be talking about that, man. So, James, man, how you doing?
I'm good, man. How about you? Thanks for having me on. It's fine. It's good to finally get on a call. Get on a podcast with you. I'm doing good though.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. I'm doing good, man. I think for me, it's my wife and I haven't really experienced anything with all this COVID stuff going on. Thankfully, I know there's a lot going on with everyone else, and it's different everywhere you go. So, my heart's out there for people that are actually going through things, that are struggling, whether their business got shut down or whatever, they got to pivot. My heart goes out because I don't know how that is. And so that being said, though, COVID is causing a lot of people to have to pivot, man. So have you had to pivot at all in your business?
Yeah, definitely. I think, when people say like when it doesn't affect you like financially is one thing, but I think there's like some sort of like emotional effect that happens to every single person in this world when things like this happen, especially like children as well. They don't know how to handle the situation. And even though we think it doesn't affect us, I think it's affecting everybody in its own way. But definitely COVID hit. Majority of my clients were restaurant owners, gym owners, hotel owners. So within the first 3 weeks of COVID hitting, I actually lost about 65% of my revenue. So I took I lost about $25,000 recurring monthly revenue within 3 weeks. And every single person that called me for those 3 weeks was, James, I'm canceling. James, I'm canceling. James, I got to put things on hold. So it came to a point where, you'll hear people say, okay, well, do the marketing for free and just keep the client around or give them a discounted rate. I just got so like down about it. Like it was just like I felt like all the work I did for the past 5 years just came to a screeching halt within 3 weeks. And I just got to a point where I didn't really want to do it anymore. That's how I was thinking. I was like, I don't even know if I want to do this anymore. So right. I had to make a pivot. I was kind of like scrambling, and just trying to get some revenue in. And I found myself going back to like what I told myself I wouldn't do. I was like taking deals here and there where I probably should have just like been a little bit more patient. But I was just so used to like a certain amount of revenue coming in. I felt like I had failed because I lost all that revenue. But what I went back to was which I was actually already transitioning into before COVID happened. I've worked with about 15 different agency owners and helped them grow their agency. So I made that pivot pretty much like 100% at that point. To just made a decision like, let's just do this, because I look at it this way. There's tons and tons of agencies that are in the same position as me. And if I could overcome it, I could teach them how to overcome it, implement some of the strategies and stuff that I use, of course.
Right. So, I mean, you kind of talked a little bit how you've built a business over 5 years. So how did it start?
Well, I moved to Arizona probably about 10 years ago. And I
nice. I'm actually from Chandler in Phoenix.
You? Yeah,
in Phoenix,
I lived in Phoenix and Scottsdale for a while. I was living in Connecticut. Just needed to get away from the neighborhood that I grew up in, and I just made a decision. And I packed two. Well, let me go back a little bit further. Just give you the whole story. So when I was 19 years old, I was thrown in jail for a crime that I did.
Whoa.
I basically
it cut out there, and I feel like that was huge. Could you step back and say that again?
Yeah. So when I was 19 years old, I was basically incarcerated for a crime that I didn't commit. I got arrested. What?
I'm sorry. That was rhetorical. I'm sorry. That I'm Wow, that's crazy. You got put in jail for something you didn't do. Go ahead.
Well, it was the town that I got arrested in. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, there's things that I did deserve to get arrested, but there's additional charges that they gave me that I did not do.
Right.
So it was like the charges that they threw on me made me have to plead out to a deal, and they wanted to give me 10 years, and I basically had to plead out to 6 months. But it caused me to have to withdraw from college. I was going to college for business. Withdraw from college and go to prison, basically. And I always wanted to learn about business, but that's why I was going to school. But like, I had to withdraw from college, so I'm like, what am I going to do now? So I just told myself, like, if I could stay motivated in here, like I could be motivated anywhere. Like, if I could be motivated in prison, I could be motivated anywhere else in the world. So I started going to the prison library and just like reading as many business books as I can, many inspirational books as I can. I read Think and Grow Rich the first time when I was in prison. I read just anything that they had in prison for business. I basically read business management, all the college books that they had, and I created my first business plan when I was locked up. It was a clothing line, and my background, I'm Black and Jewish, so it's always like about diversity. So I created a clothing line named Aquella, which was an original word. It means a blend of your mood, music, color, and style.
Wow.
And when I got out of jail, my idea was I was writing back and forth with one of my high school friends, had moved to Arizona. He said, we're planning this clothing line while I'm in jail. And he's like, when you get out, like you got to come out here. And I'd never been to Arizona before in my life. So I got out, did my like month of parole, whatever I had to do. I packed 2 duffel bags. They were about 90 pounds apiece, and I just jumped on a plane and I moved to Arizona. I knew one person in Arizona, and as soon as I got there, it was like a fresh start. So yeah, I started working with him. We were promoting concerts, and we started building the clothing line, and we started cross-promoting with the artist and have them like hold shirts up and take pictures. It was like more of a like hip-hop line at that time. And right. So we started doing that, and then that's when MySpace started coming out. So I would promote like crazy on MySpace, and I would just like pack these shows and sell shirts, sell thousands and thousands of shirts. And at that time, a business owner started coming up to me. They're like, hey, can you do this for me? Can you do this for me? I'm like, sure, I could do it for you. And that's right when Facebook came out with business pages. So what one of my friends and I did is we opened an agency in Arizona, and we were just offering businesses Facebook fan pages and marketing, everything that came along with it. And we actually grew that business to like $1.2 million within 12 months, the first year. But, as everything happens, it goes up and down. I had to move back here to Connecticut, where I'm at now, and start all over again. Because I left that business, I wanted to be home closer to my family, and my daughter was here too. So I started all over again.
Well, what made you leave that business? What was the reason for that?
There's partners involved, and sometimes it just doesn't work out. There was there's some things I didn't agree about. There's some misunderstandings between me and some of the my partners, like family members, which caused like tension. And I was just like, I'm talented enough to do this on my own. It was really hard to walk away from that. I mean, it's hard to go from, I was making maybe like the most I ever made, before that was probably like, I don't know, like $3,000 a month. I mean, it was younger, you know what I mean? So you're going from making $3,000 a month to, $40,000, $50,000 a month. You're like, and then you walk away from that to start all over again. It's a big, it's a big change. I think I had one client that was paying me $2,800 that I took with me, and I literally just jumped in the road and I drove back home from Arizona, and I was like, what am I going to do? Took a job out here, 9 to 5, making like $15 an hour plus commission. I just needed something. I knew I could sell, so I always took sales jobs. Right. And then what I would do is I would find businesses that were advertising in like the coupon books and everything. And I would go into a room on my lunch break, and I would cold call those businesses for an hour. I took every single lunch break. I went into an empty room at my job, cold call them, and then I would set up a meeting for another time on one of my other lunch breaks, and I just built my business up doing it that way. And my boss was like really cool at the time. He's like, if you need to take more time here and there, he's like, I'm cool. He's like, I know you're not going to be working it forever. And he's like, I'll work with you. So thank God he let me.
That's amazing, man.
Yeah. So I built it up to, I think $6,000 a month. And at the time, our bills were like, I don't know, like maybe a little bit more than that with house and everything. My daughter's mom was actually pregnant again, and we just bought a house, and I was like, I'm quitting my job. And everybody's like, what the hell are you doing your job right now? Like, you have another baby on the way, you just bought a house. I'm like, because I know that if I can cold call for an hour and make money, imagine if I did it for 8 hours. So
right.
So I quit my job, sat in the third bedroom, and just cold call businesses every day. I grew from $6,000 to $60,000 within 8 months. $60,000 a month.
Got right back to where you were.
Yeah, but what I realized was, it was like one of those like prove to myself moments. So I was like just calling everybody. You know what I mean? I'm like, hey,
right.
You know, like I gotta make money. And, you know, that comes to a screeching halt when you realize there's certain clients that, you know, you just shouldn't take on. You know what I mean? You usually have like,
right.
You know, you have some like intuition or a red flag pops up. You're like, this isn't the right one to work with. But
yeah, I've actually learned something about that. I mean, my experience obviously pales in comparison to yours. By the way, you know, this guy, man, he makes a lot of money with his business, and even with COVID hitting, it's way more money I've ever seen. But the main reason why I wanted to bring him on was because, you know, I want everybody to understand what it's like to be in a business that actually has cash flow, yearly exceeding 6 figures for sure. And, you know, have you ever hit 7 figures? You did at the other business, but the one you have out here, so 6 to 7 figure cash flow. And I wanted to make sure that it's on record that it's possible for those that think that it's not. And he just described that literally for 8 months he cold called straight. But before that, on his lunch break, grabbing a coupon book, calling people. I mean, I know I'm reiterating what you said, but I'm trying to make it clear to people that are listening. It's possible. I'm also speaking to myself. So, you know.
Myself at the same time.
I mean, it's just, you know, it's possible. But, you know, for me, I played business. I mean, I did the LLC thing. And I think for me, what it was I didn't surround myself around like-minded people. I mean, we were talking last night on the pre-show call that, you know, it's so important that you surround yourself around like-minded people. If you're trying to be in a business, you got to associate with business owners. I love my friends, but if you don't own a business, you can't think the way I'm trying to think. So it's not like I don't want to be around those friends or don't want to associate. You know, I have friends I have wonderful conversations with, and they're gonna stay my friends. But the reality, though, is if I want to shift my perspective, I have a huge goal for myself, and we'll get back to the story, is that I want to be wealthy. I want to have generational wealth. I've heard about generational wealth, family banking. I've heard about that. I'm looking into that. But these reasons why I'm doing this is because I want there to be opportunities for my family, and we all are human, right? We all make decisions. We all make poor decisions. And sometimes that leads to you being stuck paying traffic fines, paying, whatever it is, kind of debt that you have, and you just feel like you can't get out, and those working 9 to 5, such as myself, we get into this mindset where you get home, you're exhausted, and it's hard to get yourself back in to the mindset of, I just got to keep working so I can get myself out of this 9 to 5, get more money than I'm making now, and, ultimately take care of my family, because my family has debt, traffic fines, just stuff that they need to pay off, from poor decisions. And I don't care to help them. I see money, and you probably see money in the same way. When family needs help, money is not the issue. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, oh, you got like a $3,000 fine, whatever, and you're like, my brother, he's a go-getter, he's a hard worker, and I know that dude could do damn good in a job that flourishes for what he's really, really good at. I feel he's been taking things that just work for now rather than trying to build a future. And I really can see this guy, like, he has such a intuitive, like, inventive mindset, and dude could probably sell anything too. Like, he's really good at that kind of stuff, but he's kind of stuck in his situation. But that mindset is the same for a lot of people in that situation. So getting back to what you were saying, I just wanted to be clear and express to people that, like, what James is talking about is very possible for anybody. But it's the mindset we get into, and I'm struggling with that myself. I mean, I'm working on, the app that I got. I'm working on trying to build a membership site. We talked about that too for my wife who does piano lessons. So, I mean, there are ways you can make money. It's just you have to stop thinking that you can't. You got to remove that.
Yeah, I mean, I think for me is like I spent a lot of time trying to. When I first started, I spent a lot of time trying to find people that validated what I was doing was a good idea.
Yeah.
And I would be like, I needed that validation in order to, like, move forward. And what I noticed over time is searching for that validation. I'm never going to hear exactly what I want to hear to make it confirmed and make it like,
right,
you're on the right path. Right.
Right.
So the best thing to do, I think, when you have an idea, especially like in the infancy stages of an idea, is to, like, obviously plan it out. You have to make it what you're going after, and it has to be something like within reason. Like, people have some crazy business ideas that you're like, maybe you gotta reel it back in a little bit, but don't talk to anybody about it. Research it, put in a plan, and then start with just 1 hour a day, literally an hour a day. So that's every single day of the week, every day of the week, 7 days a week, you're only doing 1 hour a day. And what you'll notice is, like, all of those negative feelings and all those negative things that pop in your head, like, I can't make money, they tend to go away because you start like getting this motivation that you ever read the book, The Compound Effect?
I haven't.
So it's like, the more times you do things in a row, it just compounds into something really big and great. So you got to think about it this way. All that time you're searching for, what am I going to do here? Over the course of a month, you put in 49 solid hours on your business. And what you're going to notice is when you start doing that hour a day, you start more motivated, you have a plan of attack, you'll start putting in 2 hours a day because you get more motivated and you're on a roll. Then some days you put in 3. But your minimum per day is 1 hour. That's all you have to do. As long as you stick to one thing, do an hour a day, and just be dedicated to that small little task so you're not overwhelming yourself, because people are like, I got to work 9 hours today. I got to work 10 hours a day. That may be on your regular job, but if it's just a business and you're having a hard time getting over the hump, just start with an hour a day and then go from there.
That's a really good point. And I think from all the things that I've learned from the books that I've read are Robert Kiyosaki, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I read his second book, Cash Flow Quadrant, and it's funny because the complement to Cash Flow Quadrant, if anybody's actually looking to read books, Rich Dad, Poor Dad gives you the mindset and understanding of liabilities and assets, or assets and liabilities. You get into Cash Flow Quadrant, he talks more about the actual actions and more of the implementations and things like that he does. And it talks more of like what those quadrants are and like what they mean. And it helps people understand, not that you want to segment your friendships, but you just understand the mindset of a friend who just cares. Like, he doesn't care. Like, maybe he wants a side business to make a little bit of money. Maybe he wants to experiment, but his goal is not to quit his job. And there's people that are just comfortable working where they're working, and that's totally fine. But for the people that are trying to actually build a business, they want a different type of freedom and they want a different type of schedule. That mindset is way different. So it's not saying that you can't talk to those friends. It's just saying, like, when you want to surround yourself around business, or like-minded people who, own businesses, have cash flow, understand how it works, you need to surround yourself with them, but don't alienate the other friends. Just make sure that it's clear, like, you're thinking different. You're trying to do something different. That's all it is.
Yeah, I think like I went through there a lot. I had a lot of friends that put me in the wrong direction and I shouldn't be around. And I had to it took me a long time to remove myself from speaking to them on a regular basis, or it's like you expect a different outcome every single time you hang out with them, and you're just letting yourself down. So I think at the end of the day, you just have to know what to expect from a certain person. And don't expect anything more, because if you expect anything more, you're going to be let down every single time, and then you're going to start questioning yourself.
Right.
And then it's like, and then we're all adults, right? It's not up to us to motivate anybody, honestly. Right. Like if you like, I used to want to like jumpstart people's motivation. Like you could do it. That's great. But I want to take somebody that's a little motivated and make them more motivated. I don't want to take someone that has zero motivation and start their motivation. I just want to excel it. That's the difference.
I agree. And I think the important thing with that too is I've actually struggled with this, where I found that I will, because I'm always a go-getter, problem solver, and like get it done kind of guy. So like I'll find myself trying to give advice to people that didn't even ask for it. Like I see their problem and I know a solution.
Yeah.
And I'm like, here it is, Yeah. And I think, and if you're saying that you kind of struggle with that too a bit, like I think people like us, we're just trying to like apply that solution, and then we get and it goes back to your expectations. Like we put these expectations, like I'm giving you the answer, why aren't you taking it? Like why aren't you doing the solution I gave you? And you get these false expectations in your mind, like. And it takes up a lot of mind space, a lot of mental thought process, just a lot of time that's not necessary, and it just doesn't have. There's no clarity there, because then you're trying to wonder, like, am I supposed to do that? Should I have done that? When the reality is, like, I've just tried to keep it simple. Like, if they ask for help, help them, give them what you're going to give them, and then let it go. And that, for me personally, has helped me.
Yeah, I mean, I give people advice. Like if anyone knows me, like I'll help them out with like what I can. And if they have any questions about, business and marketing, I help them out. But what I won't do now, I used to do it a lot more, is like what I won't do now is, it's like you only have a certain amount of time in the day, right?
Of course.
So it's like, you almost have to qualify people that you're just giving away advice to, right? And that goes in addition to surrounding yourself around the right circle of people, right? So if you were giving advice about something, your prospective client circle of the people that you want to work with, they would probably become clients of yours, right? But if you're giving advice in a circle of people that are never going to bring you anything, it's a lot of time that's wasted over there. So what I would do is just try to take that advice and put it in a circle of people that can actually, work with you and bring you closer to your dreams. So it's like, who do you want to work with? Who's like your top 3 people that you would love to work with? Find out everybody that follows them and start connecting with them. Let them know what you do. And just, if you like giving advice, you're on their Facebook page, like, hey, I noticed this, and that. This is what you should do. And then it starts a conversation. I think people put too much strain on being able to like start conversations with people. And it's just need to be light and simple. Just break the ice.
Right, I agree.
Start a normal conversation.
No, I can agree with that. And then knowing where the point at which it's like, hey, let's jump on a call and then qualify kind of in that direction. But I think content also, and this is where I kind of like try to push, and I'm trying to also do the same thing. It's difficult because I love a lot of different things. I love tech. I love talking about my journey with, getting rid of debt. And I love talking about things that matter. I've realized, though, I've been able to put into the podcast more of a longer form conversation, which has allowed me to not try to do that on the YouTube content. So on the YouTube content, I can focus more on the debt journey. I can focus more on the tech and things that kind of I enjoy to make videos for, that kind of help people. Because the thing I've noticed is what I've seen a lot of businesses struggle with in the things that I have expertise in, and I'm trying to see how I can turn that into a membership site as well, is like You may have IT at the place you work, but you don't have IT when it comes to you doing certain things for yourself, documenting your knowledge, all those things, and just having a good audio video setup and just having a good, just overall place that you can sit down and just make content, just hit record and go.
Yep.
That content, documenting your knowledge is so important because it allows also for it to get out there. I mean, you already know this. SEO is a thing. And the more you put your content out there, the more it's, possible that somebody's going to reach it. And then, like you talked about, there is a flow in which when you're documenting these things and you want to give advice, you can also make content on that stuff that you have advice for. And then you can create a flow from there. But like, yeah, if you're interested, hit the link down below, fill out the form, and then off to the races, we'll go from there. You know what I mean? But it allows for people to still have that information. When people talk about, can I pick your brain? Like, the reality is, if you had that content out of your brain and into a video, and then you say, oh, hey, I'm unavailable to get coffee with you, but let me know, write down your questions, send them to me. I might actually have videos that answer those questions for you.
Yeah, I mean, I think, obviously there's going to be a certain, type of person that would want those, services, which is obviously like someone like you or I, or,
right.
But I think when we're doing stuff like that, we have to, like, that's like a kind of like a wide open thing where a lot of people can use those services. I think where you would start like really seeing a response is if you offered those services to a specific demographic or a specific niche, right?
Yeah.
And then you could speak directly to their pain points. So say it's like a marketer, or say it's a doctor. It's like marketers, what? They don't have enough time because they're, managing their staff, their sales team. They're, worrying about like, fulfillment, stuff like that. So maybe you come up with a package specifically that speaks to their problems. And the solution for them, providing the solution, which is yourself, right? And then it's going to be easier to market it because you can go directly to them and speak your message directly to them. I know there's another company that does that, I think, for digital marketers, but the best thing to do would be, find a niche that hasn't really been like tapped into that much, or a micro niche that is a little bit more super targeted, and go after them. Go after them, go after one person and be like, hey, this is what I'm doing. I want to set this up for you. And maybe go after like a couple of the biggest ones you can and see it. Well, maybe not go after the biggest ones. Get some results first, and then go after the biggest ones you can. Go right to the top and screw it up. But
I mean, I've seen how crazy just networking in general, how powerful networking is. Because I've been involved with the video industry for a while when I was doing video production with Iron Digital Media, and it's still going to be a company I'm going to use, but maybe not for that, because I've since found out that I really enjoy making content, but I found that for me personally, that I found that I don't like that environment because I'm very particular and very meticulous and things like that. And so that just doesn't fit because it's really a customer service driven industry. You can have contracts and things like that for sure. It's not so much as you just do whatever they ask. I mean, you got to have limitations and things like that. But what I've found in the video industry is that they will have like trouble finding good recurring revenue when they're talking about making content for people and filming and stuff like that. But then all of a sudden they by networking they meet boom, some huge person at a huge company, and they're off to the races and they're making the kind of money that they want to make. So networking I think is huge too. But back to, and we can talk about networking in a second, but like you were mentioning earlier that it's hard to have, or it's hard to know whether it's good to have certain customers, right, or clients. And I think from what I was saying earlier is that you need to find those that are like you need to get rid of the high maintenance clients regardless of, their amount of like revenue, because you can focus more on the lower maintenance, higher revenue clients because it's easier. And it's also, when you start building that, like, this is what we're looking for, because you have to do a discovery phase and qualify clients that come in. And then even as they come in, they may pass that qualification. But, have you actually experienced that where, like, you have an ideal client, everything's great, but in a couple of months you find out they turn into that super high maintenance client and, it's not working out. Have you experienced that?
Usually you could tell if they're high maintenance from the beginning. It usually doesn't take 2 or 3 months. It usually, okay. I mean, I have never been wrong about not choosing a client to work with. Maybe like 1 or 2 times where it went like south, but there's been, every time before that, in the back of my head, I'm like, this isn't a good one. And yeah. I'm like, you know what I mean? And, it's just, you still take it. Sometimes you feel like, I can make this relationship work, but, yeah, very rarely has it happened 2 to 3 months down the road. Usually it happens like with the beginning, they have a lot of demands. You attempt to meet the demands, but sometimes we understand things differently than a client does. So what we would think would not be that big of a deal, or is something that we could fix really easy, is a major situation for them. You know what I mean? So right. It's obviously communication is key, but also setting the correct expectations from the beginning. Like, this is what you're going to get by this date. This is what you can expect by this date. This is how we're communicate with you. And then what I noticed, which really helped me with like retention on clients, is every single client I sign up now, I drop them in a Slack channel with my my campaign managers, my sales team, and my development team. So if
that's super smart.
Yeah. So they need anything, I'm like, and that gives them that extra layer of of being comfortable with the situation. Like, if you need anything, you have access to my team 24/7. So they don't have to worry about, feeling like, oh, I'm going to sign up, I'm never going to hear from you again. And 9 times out of 10, they won't even use the Slack channel. They'll just text me anyway. But no, yeah. So I just, they sometimes they use the Slack channel, but it's good because, one, it keeps the communication open, makes them feel that, you're not disappearing and everything's getting fulfilled. And then on top of that, they everything is organized too. So all the communication is in there because, if the client's emailing the developer, it's like you got to keep everything in one channel. That's why it's called a channel, right?
Right, and I can agree with that. I can see how email can sometimes get
flustered,
a little messy. Yeah, I can definitely see that. I can see where, because I'm a software developer by hobby, and I'm trying to make that a career. I've applied. This is crazy. So I don't know if you've noticed on my feed, but I've actually had a Square engineer, Android engineer on the podcast already.
Yep.
Yeah, it's really cool. And that goes back to the networking part. Is you gotta organically build relationships, and that's just how things work. People don't do business with businesses; they do business with people. Yep. And so that's what you need to understand. And I've actually found, because everybody thinks like who you are as a person, and you have some struggles, but I've come to the things that I've struggled with. Some of the things I've accepted because that's because you're comparing yourself to other people in society. Mm-hmm. And the reality is you shouldn't, because there's things everybody needs to work on, but what makes you who you are is how you should continue being, unless it's like not healthy. But the point is like, I love talking to people. I love like conversing. I love encouraging people. I love doing that kind of stuff. And when you and I have dialogues, like, especially the times that I've seen you, not have such a great time, or you're feeling down on me, because these things are like, I don't know. There's also a masculine perspective to it, where like there's this thing about guys and how guys shouldn't talk about like how they feel and what they're going through, like their mental struggles. And I've been talking to my cousin who's a Marine, and how Marines kind of struggle with that. And like, I really think it's important that men listening understand, like, it's cool, like, express to people, talk to people. Like if you're having a hard time, like it's okay. You know, I think that's important to say.
Yeah. Yeah, no, definitely. And that's something that I struggled with for a long time too. Like the whole, like my whole background, how I went to jail and everything. Like no one knew about that until recently, with like everything going on with the protests and how, me getting thrown in jail, for a crime that I didn't commit. And then my sister was like, you need to share what you've been through. Right.
Yeah.
And then, I started sharing it, how it made me feel. And then what I noticed is like, people were reaching out to me like, that's crazy. Like, how do you feel about this story? Like everyone tries to like portray like this perfect person and how they think everybody else thinks that they should act. Right. If you're a business owner, you should have like this checklist. If you're this, you should have this check. Everyone's got something that's they've been through that makes them human. Right. And I feel like we kind of lost that, human connection because it's social media. Right. It's like, I'm just going to show the greatest points of my life. I'm going to show, my vacation, my car, but you're not posting that you're late on your bills. You're not posting, you know what I mean? Like, you're not talking about any of that stuff because it's like, you don't want people to know that stuff.
That Lamborghini you rent, that note's come due, man.
Yeah, you're not posting that, you need new tires or like, you know what I mean? Like, it's no one's going to post it. So I was thinking like, okay, how do I make it more like personable to people? I'm like, I'm just going to talk about the stuff that I'm going through because it's real and it's like, I can't, you know what I mean? No one else. I mean, obviously people do it, but it's like, I'm just going to really focus more on that because I've actually overcame stuff and, became successful. And I still go through these things. Don't think because you become successful, like none of that stuff happens anymore. You're still going through things. Even when you're making money, you have, like Biggie said, more money, more problems, right? So it's like, you're going to have more things that come up and things you're going to have to worry about, and it's just all about how you handle it. And sometimes for me, it's it helps me get through it when I share with other people, and I can help them overcome things with my story.
All right, everybody, we're back. We had to grab some headphones. So, but what I was talking about was the comparison to should I share my story because other people go through stuff and then there's like internal comparison of whether or not what you go through is either worse or not than what the other person goes through. And it kind of puts in your head like what I'm going through is less than. And that's not true. What you're going through is what you're going through, and it's just your story. The problem that happens, and you find this on social media, is people, and I say it's more of like a shotgun situation. Like it is generally what you see on social media because you know how the algorithms work and the hatred type of stuff and people talking about like the drama filled stuff where it's like, yeah, it's what you're going through, but you're dialing it up to 20, instead of like just being real, like, yeah, this is what happened and this is something I'm struggling with, and people do things for attention. There's all that. However, back to kind of what we should do, I think men should definitely still express what they're going through, be simple about it, but also not think they shouldn't. You know what I mean?
No, I mean, I think where we all mess up from the beginning is comparing ourselves to other people.
Yep.
And we think like we all have like someone that we looked up to growing up, and whether it's like an athlete or your parents or the president, whoever it is, they're always portrayed a certain way to be strong and gifted, and they're never shown like that emotional side. So what was the question again? Sorry, I gotta.
It's cool. Yeah. No, it wasn't really a question. It was more like I think you were responding to how, and I get that way too. Like you got this thing, and then all of a sudden the thought just like.
Yeah, it's good. It happens. Good. That's why I'm an entrepreneur, man. Because I just go pew, like whatever I want.
Yeah, pretty much. But also that's the thing too is I want to pivot a second, and then we'll come back. I think what people also need to understand too, if you're married and if you have the opportunity, and I'm only speaking to people in my situation because like I'm married, so my wife and I talked about our goals. We had very long conversations about what we want to accomplish, and my biggest thing was being able to help my family. Like my mom's health is not where it should be, and I don't think that Western medicine can help her. I think Western medicine is lacking. So I want to have financial ability to take her to other parts of the world that have different remedies that are just natural, but they're not necessarily stuff that it would be okay in America. And the thing is, like, my problem with that is I don't think America really wants to acknowledge the reality in which, number one, we started our medicine here with herbology. And I'm not going to go into that whole deep conversation of that, but my problem is that like now a pill solves everything. Yep. And because of that, my mom, like, she's not able to get the kind of help she needs, I feel. And other countries, other people that just live off of the land, they've come to find, different remedies for different things. And that's been true for thousands of years. So, yep. The reality... I
had experience like that too.
Yeah.
Where, yeah.
Go ahead.
When I'm like big into, I take like greens every day. I take like ashwagandha. I take a lot of different stuff every single day. And I was never really like that. But when I was living in Arizona, when I was younger, I used to get strep throat like once a month. It was really, really bad. So I had to get my tonsils taken out. So I got strep throat so bad that it traveled through my body and gave me scarlet fever and then the result from getting the scarlet fever affected my skin somehow. And it turned into psoriasis. And I had psoriasis from literally, it wasn't on my face, thank God, but it was like anywhere underneath my clothes, like shoulders all the way down to my feet. And it was bad. Like it was really, really bad. I went to every single doctor. I was like, they said you could treat it, but it's not curable, right? So I'm like, I have to find a solution. Like I can't live like this.
That's bullshit, right? They say they always talk about treating. They never talk about finding the solution. And that's where I have the argument of like modern Western doctors versus, looking into like naturopaths. I know people have opinions of them, but there's that. And then there's just other types of studies of medicine that go to what's happened and what have you had. And because there's other parts of your immune system has a lot to do with your gut. Right? Mm-hmm. And they never talk about that in the doctor's office. They're like, it's gas, get out. Or it's this, get out.
It's because that's the way that they were taught, right? They figured they were in school that long. So I went to a naturopath doctor. You could find them. Like, you don't have to go to a different country. You could find them in the United States. They just got to look like herbal doctors, whatever.
Oh, yeah. I mean, we've been to one.
Yeah, I went to one. He gave me like a jar, and he gave me the different roots and everything, and powders, the dandelion root, all this other stuff. I don't remember exactly what was in it. I probably took it for 2 months, every day, morning, night. Just like mix it in some water, clear my skin up like that. And I had gone to doctors for 3-4 months before that, and I was like, I'm not going to live with this. I'm going to try everything I can. And I was able to, knock it out of my system, and it hasn't come back yet.
Yeah, knock on some wood,
right here. Yeah, exactly.
But that's the thing too. Is you bring a good point, and I haven't thought about this because your mind. That's the thing to struggle is like you're set on this one path of thought process, and you don't see anything that's to the left or right of you, and that happens to me too. But yeah, no, I think I should just talk to my mom, have her come up and see because we have a naturopath that's out here.
Start research. Start researching like places in the area, and like everything like we want to do is like at our fingertips, right?
No, I agree.
mean, we can do it.
Yeah,
tomorrow.
Like we have a naturopath out here. We've actually been to one because I had a ton of abdominal pains, and they would just say it's gas. I'm like, listen, I can understand that. I'm almost 30, so sure, you can tell me my body's getting to a point to where gas is becoming painful, but I have literally ate some really shitty food and not actually had gas to the level of pain. I was in a fetal... Bro, I'm not even lying to you. There's no exaggerations here. if you've ever had abdominal pains to the point to where you're in the fetal position and you can't do nothing but say ow and just fucking scream because it hurts. And so that's what happened. And like I didn't know what to do. Like my whole abdominal, below my my chest, like below my chest, like right here, everything below, I would have these weird spasms in different parts of my abdomen that would not allow me to talk. Like I would be at work, the spasm would happen, and I would try to continue talking and push through it because I can't do anything. That's another reason why, for at least personally for me, that's another reason why I don't want to be. I mean, there are jobs where they're extremely flexible, super understanding, that kind of thing. But like when you're these call center jobs, just automate them away. Just get rid of them, because any place that doesn't allow a human being to be a human being and actually go, like you have stuff going on, something happens, you got to go take care of it. Go ahead, man. We'll see you when you get back. Hope you feel better. I mean, sick days are a thing, but sick days are crap. That's another thing why working an actual 9 to 5, for those that love it, that's great. You have a great opportunity, and they have a great system for taking care of yourself, taking care of your family. That's awesome. But I saw a meme the other day that broke my heart. A teacher was struggling with cancer, and he ran out of sick days. So the other teacher, which is a beautiful thing, but they showered him with sick days. But my problem is the dude has cancer. Yeah. There should be something different. Anyways, that tangent. But back to it, like I've been to a naturopath. I've talked to him about my stuff, and she gave us a ton of vitamins, and we bought them from her, and they're actual vitamins. It's not like this isn't some fairy magic. And I think this is a problem with like anybody in America or Western civilization in general. They just think that anything that's not from an actual doctor is fairy magic, when in reality, a lot of naturopath stuff, they still have to go to school to become a naturopath. They go to school for 4 years. Like they still go through an actual they're not necessarily an MD, but they still go through anatomy and all those kind of different trainings and studies and stuff like that.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
and I think what that boils down to is like, we were talking about everyone goes through negative experiences.
Right.
Everyone at one point struggled to grow their business. Everyone, doesn't know how to turn that into. Everyone goes through the same exact journey, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's literally the same. It's just who shifts, who finds a plan, who sticks to it, who like removes people from it. It's like the same thing for every single person. It's just, finding someone that's done it before and having them help you get to the next level. You know what I mean? That's what it's all about.
No, I agree. And I think from my perspective, what I've tried to do is, for example, with this podcast, like I'm still building the network, like I'm still building the channel, I'm still building the podcast as well. But the more and more people I have listening and watching, the more people that when I'm creating a platform in which it attracts people to sit down and have a conversation with me. That it's attractive, you know what I mean? Not just because they enjoy talking to me, but mainly because, if they're like, for example, the way Joe Rogan's podcast works, he brings people on to have a conversation about like something that they have, right? So it's whether it's a book or whatever the case is, like that's pretty much what he has people on that he enjoys talking to that are just friends of his, but that's kind of like what he does. And so I've thought that if I want to learn, I should give people a platform to help other people, and then also help those people reach that individual who has that information or knowledge or product or whatever. And that way, I'm able to learn, but I'm also able to have a wonderful conversation with somebody and build friendships and things like that. Like I actually, we've been friends on Facebook for like a year or two, something like that. Mm-hmm. And I actually have never heard that story about you being arrested. And so that's definitely new to me. But you've actually had a lot of health scares and things like that, if we can dive into that, because we've already kind of been talking a little bit about health and, your overall mental state and stuff like that. So you've actually had a heart attack. What happened with that?
So back in probably like 10, 11 years ago, my mom passed away. Then right after that, like my closest aunt passed away. And then I literally just like went downward spiral. It was like the two like really close people in my life just gone like within like 3 to 4 months. So I just started doing things, drinking things, taking things that I probably shouldn't be taking. And I just went off the deep end and wound up having a heart attack because of it. And then from there, I cleaned myself up. I had to go to rehab, figure it all out. And, going through that, it was horrible because.
You said that was rehab?
Yeah, well, no, I mean, the heart attack's worse than rehab.
Sorry. Yeah, but you cut out there, so I was trying to understand.
I'd rather go to rehab than have a heart attack any day of the week.
Of course.
Yeah. Which one do you want to go to rehab or you want to have a heart attack? Yeah, I'll take rehab. So it was just like, and then thinking about it back now, I was just like, man, I was just so stupid. But, do I regret it? Yes, I regret putting my family through that. Having my kids see me in that position. That's when I really knew that I had to change something because, to see a look on my kid's face when they saw that, when they saw me in the bed and I'm sitting there literally waiting for the doctor to come back in and tell me if they have to literally, open my chest and give me have a form of operation on me. I'm thinking to myself, how the hell did I get here? What do I need to do to change it? And I came back. He's like, you're lucky. He's like, you don't have to do anything. We're going to keep you for a day or two that you can go home. He's like, but you have a family. You seem like a smart guy. He's like, just make some changes because, you can't be doing this again. You're not going to be coming out with the same circumstances. So, it's just a very scary time in my life, to put it that way.
Damn. But that does tie into, it's really interesting how we just kind of naturally talk about things that kind of tie together. And, it goes back into your mental state and having a good support system and things like that. I think it's important to express that no matter where you are, no matter who you are, I've personally been writing in my journal past couple of days, and I've been talking about it on Facebook, and people have been responding really well to it, and that's where I feel like I'm truly my true self. I know that may sound weird, but I'm speaking to myself. And I'm literally there's no emotional, mental blocks, no nothing. I'm just having a legitimate conversation while I'm writing, and then I get sort of an unconscious or subconscious perspective or thought process or whatever, and I'm able to speak to that, and it's kind of helped me realize that if I don't continue to be more positive, because I would say, unfortunately, sometimes I'm more negative than I should be. And that's hard to deal with because, I've struggled with that. And so my issue is I need to become more positive over time. And I'm an energetic person, so I can make it seem like everything's great and lovely. But the reality is, behind the scenes, I can be a negative guy.
There's a trick to becoming more positive that I do. So as soon as, and it's scientifically proven that you could send, different electromagnetic waves to certain parts of your brain, and it causes that part of your brain to essentially become smarter, if you want to put it that way. I don't know science behind it, but as soon as you think that because usually you become negative when you are pushing yourself forward and you're not getting it, and so you become negative because you become a little bit let down that you can't get there as fast. Yeah. That's a lot of negativity comes from. So when you're I wish I had this, I wish I did this, I wish. As soon as that enters your head, when you think I wish, I want, I'm glad I'm not. So if you say I wish I had a car, I'm glad I'm not homeless. You know what I mean? I wish I had more money. I'm glad I'm not broke. So it's like an instant mindset shift, and you have to train your mind to, as soon as that negative thought comes in, try to take it immediately and think the opposite to kind of to kind of stop it from, adding on another negative thought to the point where you're just down a rabbit hole of bullshit. And, 2 days later, you're still thinking about it. So as soon as it comes in, you're I wish I'm glad I'm not. I'm glad I'm not. It's like an instant, it just battles against it instantly.
Yeah, definitely. You gotta speak more truth, and I've actually caught that a couple times. It was actually yesterday. I can't remember what I was thinking about. I remember looking at my iPad, and I was doing something, and I had a negative thought, and I literally stopped myself, and I said, "No, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to go down that way." And so stuff like that helps me when I'm able to actually do that. But yeah, I mean, mental health, physical health, those are all things that are super important. Because you talked about people that work 9 or 10 hours a day. You know, from your perspective, you know, I mean, you're obviously trying to continue to kind of bounce back from, you know, the COVID stuff and how that's impacted your business. And we were talking last night about, you know, something else you're working on. But so I wanted to, and this is actually something I just thought of just now, but with the hustle culture, what's your perspective on that? Like, you definitely, I could say you were hustling. You were trying to, you know, get cold call those customers, or, you know, acquire those customers during your lunch break, and then you decided to quit your job when you got to a point you were making enough money to do so, and then it just kind of grew from there because you're doing it at 8 hours a day. So, like, were you doing it 8 hours a day? Like, how much were you actually working in your business? And like, how did it grow over time to where maybe it was less? I mean, has it grown to more as you pivot? Like, what's going on?
Yeah, well, the when I dealt, like, the cold calling, that was probably 5 years ago. And then once I was working 8 hours a day. Like, when I first started, I was like setting appointments for 8 hours a day, and then obviously, like, the next day or whenever I set the appointment, I might go to an appointment, and I started in my local area, started that way because I can drive out and meet them. So it started off like, 8 hours a day. Then if I build up more appointments, maybe it's like 3 hours of calling, 5 hours of this. But I was working on my business 8 hours a day. And then once I got to a point where I built up enough client base, I removed that cold calling role for myself, and I hired someone to do it for me in my office. So progressively over the years, I've learned that there's going to come a certain point where you're going to get burnt out with certain tasks. I don't care who you are. The more you do them, some people, like, it's just going to happen. So if you're doing it for so long and you become like a master at it, you need to teach someone else how to do it and remove it and take it off of your plate. So over the years, the way my business has progressed and advanced is I'm just working on it now as opposed to in it. So, I have someone generating my leads. I have someone setting my appointments, and I have someone closing my deals as well. So the only thing that I need to do is work with my clients face to face. And then what I'm doing now is I'm working with, agency owners, coaches, and consultants, and teaching them this exact method where it could teach them how to be like a CEO, where we help them steer the ship as opposed to worrying about all these like little things throughout the day that they can never really get ahead. It's like, think about it. If you take on a client for, let's say I take on a client, just let's keep it simple, for posting on Facebook, right? I have to sell the client, onboard the client, content strategy. I have to do the posting, write the ad copy, graphics, report to them, bill them, make sure that they, pay on time, report to them. It's literally like 15 different things, right? So if the more you got to take those off your plate, because as a business owner, you're better served with high level strategy as opposed to day-to-day, like little tasks that don't really help you grow.
I can agree. And I think one thing that I've actually, for the podcast, let's talk about that. I've actually seen the different things that I need to automate, or I need to hire somebody and do it. For example, and I have to wait until I get this developer job just because the salary difference is way larger. And there's like a bigger reason why I want to be a software developer for now. It's going to help me accomplish my more, well, in the longer, in a bigger scope, like, of my life. In a more micro sense, debt is like very short, it's very small comparative to a lot of other people. So I know I can accomplish it, but becoming a developer, because the salary difference is way larger, and I can get the experience that I need because of the things that I want to do. Like, for example, I am working with, the story's crazy. I won't get too deep into it, but essentially I have on my wall a tweet that I printed out, which reminds me that networking and reaching out and always not being afraid to put what you want out there. Like literally say it. Like I'm a prime example, and this I will talk a lot about because I'm a prime example of speaking things into existence.
Yeah, auto suggestion. Yep.
Yeah, I've spoke into existence my wife. I'm not gonna lie, because when I was in Phoenix, I literally said I'm gonna get a stable. Well, before I got to Phoenix, I was actually saying this. I was like, I'm gonna get a stable job. I'm gonna get a car, and I'm gonna have a place to live. And so that slowly happened where I went to Phoenix for a year for this job, and then they moved me to Dallas where I was working for that company by myself. I was the only person in Dallas for the company is what I meant. But I was stable, had a stable job, had a car, and within 3 months met my wife at a coffee shop.
Nice.
And within a year of dating, we got married. And we've been married for almost 4 years next July.
Nice.
We've had a lot of struggles because when you marry somebody, that you're marrying that person where they're, kind of where they're at with who they are and their struggles and everything and their family, all that comes into your life. And who they are as a person, I view as like she and I, like I want to help her grow as a person. And for me to do that, and I want her to help me grow, but like for me to help her, we need to be able to communicate. And as I'm sure you understand in relationships you've had and especially with having, kids and stuff like that, like communication is huge. And if you come to a disagreement or there's something that you're not, like you're saying something, the other person is saying another thing, and you're not, there's like a disconnect. You're not reaching each other. My wife and I, and I'll say this as much as I can, we sat down with a counselor. We actually got counseling, and we've been getting counseling for the past year or two. And so the thing, and it's not like every month, we don't set a specific time. We just go, when we can't reach each other, I'm like, all right, let's go sit down. Let's talk it out. Because, and I really think this is important. It doesn't matter if it's not counseling, but a mediator is extremely important because, and hopefully somebody that can be unbiased. Because the perspective of each individual person is going to clash unless you have somebody else speaking into the situation. And so we have done that, and it's helped immensely. We are getting better every day, every month, and like every marriage, we have our ups and downs too. But the bringing that back, like the importance of that and the networking and putting stuff out there. And so we got married. We're like, okay, well, we want to be stable. So I told her, I was like, hey, you want to go to school? But I was kind of huge on us taking care of our own stuff. Like I didn't want her family paying for anything because her generation of family, like her dad and her mom, their grandparents were paying for everything. Like her dad is still living at home, but he's a chiropractor. Love the guy to death. I'm not saying anything negative. It's just that's his situation. I never wanted that for us. And so she joined the Air Force, and I was trying to join with her. I couldn't, medical stuff. But we got in. We're in a stable home. We have our bills taken care of. Like there's no issue. We're just focusing on getting out of debt, which is not hard. It's just making sure we're in the mindset every month to do that. But going back to that whole everything right there is just the fact that like I spoke all that into existence, mainly because I know myself well enough. I'm better with a partner rather than not. I mean, I could do a lot of things by myself, but having somebody by my side that loves me and wants to continue.
You accountable.
Exactly. And she does. And, we're helping ourselves. Like growing up, I had a lot of anger issues. And I still kind of do, but they're nothing what they were back then. And, and there's other things of what I was born with and stuff like that come into that. But the anger issues, like, she's really helped me. Like, I grew up with a lot of that also because of the generational stuff. Like, you learn what you learn from your parents, right? So my dad was, I have had stepdads that were they yelled, screamed, some of them were abusive. And, my dad, he was struggling with drugs and alcohol and stuff like that. Thankfully, he's not anymore. He's great. He's in a great spot. He's actually in Phoenix with my grandma. He's disabled and stuff like that, so he can't really work. But the point of that is, Overcoming things that you've been through is possible. You have power and choice, not just to speak things into existence, but you have a choice to get out of stuff. My family and I, we used to physically fight all the time. And it wasn't until the day I decided that I actually have the power to say no or make a choice and say, no, I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to allow this to continue to move to a place of where it's at. And when I started to make that decision, every family member I used to physically get into altercations with or whatever, it stopped. Yelling at each other stopped. Because I would walk away when it would start to get to that point. Physically fighting stopped because when it would get to that point, and I remember when it would, I would walk away or I would say, all right, we're getting to a point where this isn't going to move forward, so I'm going to leave. And so, I mean, that was a big struggle with my wife's family. When we were sitting down at the table talking about, the wedding, Teresa didn't talk a lot. She talks way more than she used to, but she grew up in a family where they didn't encourage her to speak up and use her voice. And that pissed me off. And so we would have conversations before we would go to her house, her family's house. And because I'm detail oriented, I can make sure that things that have a lot of pieces to it are communicated. And she's not like that. So she will forget details. I don't know if you've ever experienced somebody that's like that. But we were sitting down with her family. And her grandma, bless her heart, she's a beautiful person. She's been through a lot. When I was speaking, because Teresa wouldn't say anything, because she was just a quiet person, she wouldn't speak up. I had to step in and speak about what we had previously agreed upon and talked about and that kind of stuff. And I would have to express it. But her grandma was like, "Oh, so you're just making all the choices. Like the woman doesn't get to choose anything. You're just." Whatever you say goes. And it really pissed me off because I'm like, that's the exact opposite. And so I got really mad. But the thing that I grew to do was, and my mom taught me this, is like when you get to a point you get so angry and things are going to get to a place that's not good, you stand up, you walk out, you walk away. And when I did that, they saw that as a negative, and they made me even more mad because I was like, what? Are you serious? My whole life I've struggled with anger, and that's a big, big positive point for me, and they saw it as a negative. And so, I mean, everything's fine now. I mean, we're her family and we're great. We have a great relationship. They understand me now. But that's the thing too. Like, communication is huge, and tying that back to the networking and speaking things into existence. Communicating and understanding how to express what you want and put it out there is amazing. So I did that. I got an iOS developer for the app that I was working on, which is what I, put out there. It's like, hey, I need an iOS developer for the Keep app, to keep recipes and stuff like that. It built a friendship, and we've been working. He was like, we initially only wanted to do 2 months. So we had a contract. Okay, you're only going to do 2 months with me, and this is going to help him build his portfolio, stuff like that. And a year later, we're still working together. And, he's moved on to being an iOS developer, which was his main goal. And now I'm working with his son. His son's my age because my buddy Dave is the guy that was the iOS developer to help me with Keep. He was in his 50s transitioning from being a technical writer to being an iOS developer, which is huge. Not a lot of people in their 50s would do that. There's a lot of respect to Dave. But his son, he's been a developer for the past 5 years. And when I talked to him, we were talking about he was going to help me with my resume. And he had mentioned something that he wanted to work on. And this is a voting app that allows for people to, not necessarily voting, but we've come up with the phrase learn, discuss, vote. So you first have to learn about politicians. You have to learn about people that are running for office. You have to learn about what they stand on, what their campaign is, and stuff like that. And if they say anything publicly in a interview or in a hearing or in a debate, whatever, like we would catalog that, we did archive it, so you can pull it up without it in the full context. So you're not watching these 5-minute newsreels where you're getting their biased perspective of something. So he and I started working on that, and now we're going to make a nonprofit for it. So my point in saying all of that is to say that it's possible for you to do things. You just have to speak it into existence. You have to go out there and get it, and don't let anybody stop you.
Yeah, and there's also like it's like the book Think and Grow Rich. It teaches you auto suggestion. The more you're talking about speaking into existence, It's the more you suggest yourself something, the more you start to believe it. So the best way to do that is to actually write out like your, what you want to accomplish by a certain date and what you're going to do to get that in return. You write it out in a statement and you read it out loud every morning and every night before you go to sleep. I did that for the clothing line, Aquella, and I, didn't hit the numbers that I wanted to, but it really gave me the motivation, and then also affirmations as well are really important. So I have like this morning formula that I go through where it's, my affirmations that I read, what I did is I recorded them on a voice memo, and I play them and I say them out loud, and it's my voice that I'm hearing. And then I do the same thing at night too. So anything that you want to speak into existence, you record it, and then you listen to yourself while you're reading it. And then it's like reading a book and listening to the audiobook at the same time. You just get way more out of it. But yeah, it definitely works for sure.
That's amazing. So definitely, I think, I don't know if I bought Think and Grow Rich and have it ready yet, or I knew I added it to a list and I need to buy it. So I definitely need to do that now, because that's going to align with a lot of what I've been doing and what I believe. So that's awesome. So we've already talked a lot about a lot of different things, but one thing I want to kind of dive more into is, what is it, the transition from the different areas or the different types of a business owner you've been from doing a lot of things, wearing a lot of hats, to now you have people that you hire. How did you get into the mindset as you went from cold calling business owners to, because the thing that I think are a couple of details that I think cloud my mind, well, first and foremost is why I'm asking this, but more importantly, I know it's going to help other people, is because you didn't have like an actual company right away. You started the cold calling. Well, and I don't know the answer to that, obviously, so let me know. But you started cold calling people, and then you got to a point where you quit your job. At what point did you decide, okay, this is making me money, I'm obviously going to need to pay taxes and all that kind of stuff, so this is when I'm going to have to like actually form something, and then, No,
I had a business. I had a business before that. So I formed the business actually when I was in Arizona. I was going to start my own thing out there. And I had the business out there. It was like formed. I think I formed it in like 2014, but I didn't really start making any money with it until like 2016. So like I already had it formed. So the LLC's got, the credits up and all that good stuff. And then, I went through like phases, right? I took on every client in the beginning just because I want to get revenue, I want to make money. Then they went to being more smart, taking on the right clients, and then working with less clients with higher retainers. And then that transitioned into helping other agency owners get clients. And then that transitioned more into creating systems for other agency owners, not just coaching them, but also giving them a sales team, giving them a lead generation team, giving them a closing team if they wanted, a fulfillment team. So basically, depending on what their needs are, because I know the position that I was in, whereas like sometimes I struggle with sales, sometimes I struggle with fulfillment, sometimes I struggle to generate leads. So it's like, why not give people these options to hire, or leverage my team as their team, essentially white label it and, run with the services so they could just move forward. Because a lot of business owners like, well, you may not like doing sales. Okay, we got that covered. You may not be good at generating leads, but you're good at sales. You're good at fulfillment. Let us get you, let's plug and play exactly what you need and make it custom for you so you can grow.
Yeah. Yeah. I think because for me, I get stuck on some things, and I think the most important thing is, and as you mentioned, is writing down what you want to do, which is something I need to start doing more, and just kind of continuing to make those steps every single day, and focusing on what your why is. Like, why are you doing it? Are you trying to just make money? For me, I'm trying to do generational wealth. I'm trying to really take care of my family members, because what's holding them back really is debt. Debt I mean,
Yeah, but where it starts is saying, like, I'm trying. You just got to act. Like, pick a plan and just do it. You know what I mean? Because it's always going to be the same conversation. It's always going to be the same. It's like, I want this, but this, but. It's like, okay, that's where you need to make that shift where I was saying before, like, I'm glad I'm not. It's, you just have to, once you start thinking that stuff where it's like, you know, it's generational. I want generational wealth. Okay, what am I doing about it? Debt, at least I'm not here. And then it's a plan, hour a day. Like, just make it, don't overcomplicate it, because every single person, like I was saying before, every single person goes through like the same stages and have to overcome the same things. So one of those other things that I do is, like, you know, I have these things. I did that for a long time where, you know, okay, I've gotten arrested and this has happened to me. And that's always been like in the back of my head, like, I have to overcome that. And then me sharing that story allowed me to overcome it. So I think with you, it's just more like you have to just, that's always going to be there, whether it's now or 10 years from now. So what are you going to do about it today to stop making it like the reason why it's maybe holding you back from doing something, you know?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, no, I agree. And I think, you know, there are some realistic struggles, but I think also it's about prioritization, because I think when the wife and I keep saying we're gonna actually stop and look at these content videos that teach about how to do, you know, the monthly membership type of thing, type of business that you want to do, a lot of people have actually, you know, made a lot of money. And, you know, for her and I, like, you know, we need to prioritize that, and I think that's important if I'm acknowledging that, and I find that we're prioritizing other things.
I think that would also, you know, picking that, not only is it going to, you know, maybe you sit down with your wife and say, hey, no matter what, we're making a commitment to work on this for 1 hour a day, no matter what. And then it's like, then it's going to motivate her. It's going to motivate you. It's probably going to, you know, it's actually going to probably, you know, help your relationship at the same time as you're working on something together. And it's just going to put you in a direction. Like you said, you want to inspire her and help her do better. It's at the same time, it's going to be inspiring you and helping you do better. At the same, you know,
right.
That's what I would say. That's what I would suggest.
That's a good point. I did have some other stuff on here. I had some screenshots. We went over everything that I had pulled up, but you had a couple. We talked about the heart attack. We talked about a lot of the mental stuff, but we talked about how COVID impacts your business. But you were doing. Okay. Okay. I see that. Because we already talked about the I wish I was. We went through a lot of cool stuff. So
we want to talk about the fasting, I think.
Yeah. Fasting, man. You went fasting. How'd that go?
Well, I just ended a 48-hour fast last night at 7:00. So I've always been like pretty healthy. I work out. I've tried like every single like workout thing that's out there, like P90X. I did it for a year straight. So I've always been like consistently staying in shape. But after like this COVID thing, I really just needed like a mindset shift. Like I needed something completely different. And I ultimately wanted to challenge myself. I just didn't feel like challenged. I feel like I perform better when I'm challenged or when I'm like under pressure. So I didn't feel that as much with everything going on, because just for some reason I wasn't getting the same type of vibe, I guess. So I was like, I want to challenge. I'm like, I'm going to fast. Right. And I have a business coach, and he's done it for longer than I've done it before. And he's like, you know, originally I was going to do it for 2 days. It's just water. Right. And then he's like, you're going to do it for 3 days, James. He's like, because at day 2 is where you get supreme mental clarity. And I want you to feel that for an additional day. And I'm like, 3 days with no water? Like, I can't do this. And first day, you know, it was difficult. Second day, it got a little bit harder, but then you get these little spurts of like this mental clarity, almost like euphoric in a way. And what it really like allowed me to do is, we don't realize how much throughout the day our days are structured around like, what am I going to eat? When am I going to eat? What am I going to do this? it's like it almost becomes a drug at a certain point. Don't get me wrong, I love food, but what it allows you to do is like really focus on what you want to accomplish. And I got when I did the 3-day fast, I probably got a week and a half worth of work done in 3 days. When I did the 2 days fast, I just got a week worth of work done in 2 days because I'm like literally just working and so like laser focused on, you know, what I'm doing. And then another thing it does is while you're doing that, obviously there's multiple benefits for the body, which it wasn't the main reason why I did it. I did it more for like a mental challenge. But on top of that, it allows you to realize like all the little things that you worry about every single day. Like, oh, you know, I got to pay my cell phone bill, or, you know, this, you know, I got to do new tires, or this little bullshit that you worry about every single day. You'll notice that in the grand scheme of things, it really does not matter that much as you think it does when you remove, you know, so when you're fasting, you're just like, and that's why a lot of, that's not why, but I mean, in addition to that, a lot of, you know, religions fast for extended amount of times because there's some sort of like spiritual awakening that you get from doing it. And like,
right.
I'm like not even the type of person that preaches this stuff, but until I did it and I experienced it, I was like, man, this is like some next level stuff. So what I did is I actually have a group of people that I coached through this time and helped them through this 2-day fast. And I'm thinking about turning it into a part of like a challenge for business owners where I can help them out free for like 2 or 3 days, and then potentially they'll probably become clients of mine.
Yeah, I think that's really important too, because I mean, as a business owner or somebody that wants to, you know, do something like you mentioned before, somebody with little motivation and you know, motivate them even more. I think fasting can definitely do that. I've fasted before, and I'm in a place where I think I need to do more of that because my wife and I are definitely in that transition, and we're too comfortable. I think that's the thing too, is people get way too comfortable. I'm saying that I do myself, and I'm trying not to do that when I get home from work because I'll get too comfortable and I'll bullshit for, you know, a couple of hours when I really should spend that time. You know, I think that's a really important thing to talk about. What I'm bringing up is that people that have been successful or are successful, you know, they didn't, you yourself, you didn't get there right away. It wasn't like an overnight thing. You know, we watched The Founder. Have you seen The Founder on Netflix?
Mm-hmm.
Like, it was a 30-year success, overnight success, so to speak. Like, just because, like, you know, I forget the guy's name, but, you know, he didn't think, oh, maybe I should, you know, I think he's kind of an ass because he divorced his wife, but who was kind of helping him get those franchisees in the beginning. But the main thing that I was kind of pointing out was he did not know that he needed to be, you know, owning the land and stuff like that. He didn't know that was the best way to do it. And it wasn't until he had a mindset shift and just kind of went in a different direction that McDonald's as a huge corporation kind of went into a different, larger direction. But people like me that kind of struggle with what they should do, what you're saying means a whole lot because it actually speaks to the complementary book I would say after Cash Quadrant is Atomic Habits. And I think you mentioned you've read that too.
Which one? Cash Quadrants?
Atomic Habits?
No. I
by James Clear. It's going to speak to that hour-a-day mindset you're talking about. I have the book. It's in my bag downstairs, and I'm almost done with that. I think I have like 6 chapters left. But what he talks about is this. There's a 2-minute rule, and I'm trying to do that every day with because I bought a treadmill, and I'm trying to use it more and more every day. But the 2-minute rule, where you standardize before you optimize. And the importance of that is that you make it a habit every single day. And for example, like doing dishes. Nobody likes doing dishes. But if you just say, all right, I'm gonna put all the forks away, right? I'm gonna put all the silverware in the dishwasher. And then all of a sudden, now you're like, I'm already here. I might as well finish it and just get it done. You know what I mean? And it's the same thing with like, you're doing 2 minutes of walking on the treadmill. We're like, well, I'm already here, so I might as well do 5 minutes. And you're like, well, this is feeling great. Maybe I should keep going.
Starting.
Yeah.
That's the biggest thing, especially with going to the gym. Like everybody will tell you, the hardest part is getting there. That's why I moved into a building where the gym is a really nice gym. It's literally 50 feet from my door. So like I have no excuses. You know what I'm saying? It's just like I simplified that step. But I think what happens with a lot of like strategies and self-help and books like that, it's like we read them, we implement for a little while, and then once it becomes a little bit difficult, we find for another strategy to implement. We don't give it the necessary time to really dial it in and move forward and make it really, really work and make it like a part of our day and our habits. So I would suggest, like, for anybody, as opposed to, you know, obviously these self-help books, there's great ones out there and people can suggest them to you. But if you were just to master and implement one of these books into your life and make it like your complete strategy, you would be successful. You'd overcome so much and you'd be well on your way. But it's like, I think once people feel like the little bit of resistance against what they're trying to accomplish, that's when they start to back up a little bit. But essentially what they need to do is that's when they need to push forward, because that means that it's actually working and they're actually going to break through to the other side. So it's like if it's getting harder, that means you're getting further. Like that's what people need to understand. Yep.
Yeah, I think that's something that's a good analogy of how when you're working out, like cardio is a big thing. So like when you start feeling that good that boost, like it's like your body starts having like a hard time, but like what's really awesome about that is like once you get past that little hump, like for example, like when you do not just cardio, but when you do like actual like strength training, the burning, the shaking of your muscles that I have happen when I dive back into working out, like that goes away once you actually kind of keep doing it, and then you're starting to get that strength back in those parts of your body. And when it comes to, creating a habit, it's kind of the same thing. And so I know there's a lot of things that she and I need to work on to get better at doing that. But yeah, definitely the Atomic Habits book. I mean, it's an amazing, because what you did was you built and engineered your environment. That's what you did. Like, it's like if you want to read a book, like you got to put it on your end table. Like you have to have it. You have to build your environment.
Or your goal is 20 pages a day, right?
Right.
Just like set a goal. Like people just try to overwhelm the shit out of themselves right from the beginning. They go from not working out to 5 days a week, right? Or not working out to or not running to 2 miles a day. Like, you have to know your limitations. Don't overwhelm yourself. Some people need to set big, huge goals in order to make them happen. But if you can't set big, huge goals, if you never overcame a goal, don't put so much pressure on yourself. Like,
right.
I think, and we watch these other people like, my 6-month goal is to add this, my 3-month goal is to add this. And it's some astronomical thing that you can't even come close to. So you're going to feel like, oh, my goal is shit compared to that. But it's like, you have to just like, it's your goal. It's your life. Like, who really cares what they have going on,
Right. And that brings us back to the whole comparing ourselves to other people.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, I think, especially with books, is just because there's an app called Headway. I use Headway. Like, I'm not like a huge reader. Like, I like to read. But like Headway helps. I can't technically read a book, but I can get like knowledge from a book in like reading it for like 8 minutes a day, and like it just it's just, and then because of all the books that I've read in the past, it just relates to something, makes another point more valid, and it just builds on it. So I think putting more knowledge into your head in any way, shape, form, or any way possible is the objective. As long as that knowledge is going to be something that you could use it for, to keep excelling in life, right? So that could be a book, it could be a podcast, it could be a YouTube video. It's just absorbing information and knowledge is where it's at.
No, I definitely agree. And the thing that the Atomic Habits book talks about is when you're trying to build goals, you actually have to have a system in place to accomplish those goals. So one of the examples they use is, and this brings us to a principle that we've literally got. If I can say I'm excited that we've accomplished something in regards to a habit, is something we do for each other every morning. So before she leaves for work every morning, pretty much Monday through Friday, we have this habit where before she leaves. We give each other a kiss and a hug, but then we move to, she says something to me where she goes, hey, 1%, make healthy choices, and be positive. Those three things are huge for me because I actually keep them in mind. Yesterday I failed because instead of getting a salad or something, I got a burger, but it's about trying to make incremental 1% changes and building a system. And the example that's in that book is there was, you know how like what do they call it? The Tour de France? Where they racing, yeah. So there's companies that that's all they do. They're trying to build a team and they're trying to perfect whatever they can to get the performance of their racers, their bicyclists, to get to the height they want, so they can win those gold medals. And what they talked about was they brought somebody in outside of the organization to try to help make things better. And so his strategy was this. He was like, all right, so here's what I'm going to do. I'll make a lot of changes that are going to be very tiny, but they're going to build up to being a very large incremental gain. And so he did so much to the point to where, these incremental improvements were like, okay, let's get a better seat for the bike. Let's see how we can make the bike lighter. Let's see how we can go to what they wear. Like, how can we make what they wear more fluid and aerodynamic or whatever the case? And then they went to, okay, so how are the racers, like, how are they sleeping? Like, because sleep is super important. And, like, so they went so far to get them better pillows. And it just all these tiny little incremental changes. They're like, in the book, it talks about the 1%. Where, like, if you were to incrementally change things 1% every day, that's how when you talked about how people that work out, they have these huge goals. We have New Year's coming up. People are gonna have a lot of resolutions about New Year's. Oh, I'm gonna lose 30 pounds. You can't lose 30 pounds in a month. You can't lose 30 pounds in 2 or 3 months. It's gonna take time. And you have to focus. One of the cool things in the book they use in regards to people working out, the example is, what they did was they built the habit of tying their shoes, right? They said, I'm going to put on my workout shoes. So by putting on their workout shoes, or like this one lady, for example, she would say, my only habit every day was I would get in a cab. So by getting in the cab and telling the cab driver, I want to go to the gym every single day, because she did that, she was good. She was done because she knew by the time she got to the gym, she's not going to leave. She's going to go in the gym because she's already there, and she's going to work out. And there's other people that made habits.
Hardest part is getting there. Yep.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's just those 1% incremental changes. I love that book, and I'm almost done with it. So you definitely got to pick it up, man. I'll have to get Think and Grow Rich, because it's just speaking things into existence. I definitely agree with.
I think I have it right here. Do I? No, I don't.
Yeah, man. It's cool, but just reading books, though, definitely helps give you a different perspective on things you don't understand. And to wrap it up here, man, this conversation has been great. It's been super enlightening, and I really enjoy it. I think we've talked about a lot of cool things. I think we've also talked about a lot of cool things that I didn't even know about, and that's the main cool part about having a podcast. You can actually have conversations with people that kind of exceed a little bit of what you thought you were going to discuss, and brings more of a connecting like humans. You know what I mean? Like humans should just conversing, talking about life, and I really enjoy that.
I had a good time too, man. I'm looking forward to watching you, grow this platform. I think you're definitely doing the right thing. I think you need to also think about a way to like monetize this going forward. You know what I mean? Where it's like, I think, it's like, you talk about try to figure out like what you want to do is this. You just want to talk to people and learn knowledge from them. But how do you monetize that? How can you turn that into a business? And then you literally can talk about anything you want. And that's how you do it. But we'll have a conversation offline, and there's some ways that I can potentially help you do that as well.
Yeah, I appreciate that, man.
Yeah.
So you were talking about how you had something you wanted to like reach out and let people know about, and what was that?
Which part?
Sorry. Well, this is part of the podcast where we kind of say, all right, man, the floor is yours. Do you have a course? Do you have a YouTube channel?
So right now I'm focused on working on agencies, coaches, and consultants, and essentially helping them structure like a wildly desirable offer. And then if they need us to, like I was telling you before, if they need us, we can, obviously we help them build the funnel. We do all the automation. We set up the CRM, notificate, like everything. And then we could train a salesperson for them. We could fulfill it for them. And we also, the only thing they essentially have to do is just work with their clients. Everything else is done for them. And there's a website out there if they want to get more information. It's called How to Get More Deals. So howtogetmoredeals.com. And they can go there, take a look at it. We have like our case studies on there of agencies that we worked with. And then from there, they would essentially just jump on a quick, 10-minute call with me or someone from my staff and find out exactly if they're a good fit, because we are looking more for a certain type of, agency, coach, or consultant. So, we want to make sure it's a good fit. It obviously does require like a sizable investment, but the people that we've been working with, we've been able to fill their calendars up within 3 weeks of starting. So it is a really good program. It took me about a year to put it together. I'm really excited to push it forward.
That's awesome, man. And I think one last note to make is I really want to help people understand. I think you might have a note to say about this too, is the fear of investing, right? Mm-hmm. And thinking the monetary value of something means that it's either a scam or that's not real. And I think people, it goes back to the whole quadrant mindset where you're either an employee or you're a specialist, which means, like a videographer, like that's kind of a specialist. That's not like an actual business. I'm not saying it's not, but it is a specialist. And then you go into a business owner in which you are owning the business, you're working on it, not in it. And then there's also investors. So like in your perspective, like, people having you mentioned a sizable investment. And I think anybody that has cash flow, whatever the investment needs to be to continue to grow that business, I think anybody would pay that.
Well, the thing about it is people come to me and I'm like, what's your goal? Like, how much do you want to make? Oh, I want to make $500,000 next year. Right. But you want to make 40 odd something $1,000 a month, but you're not willing to spend $10,000, $15,000 to get there, whatever the cost may be. Right. You know what I mean? And it's like, I've helped other people get to 6-7 figures, but you can't spend like 1/4 of what you want to make per month to get there. It's just a mindset shift. It's like you're basically paying for like a marketing degree, essentially working with me, because, you people go to college for 4 years, they're in debt for like, depending on what college you go, hundreds of thousands of dollars, and they get out of college and then they're making $50,000, $60,000 a year, whereas they could work with someone that's helped other business owners succeed and, get to $100,000, $200,000 within 6 months of working for me. Like, which one's a better option? So,
right.
I get it.
Yeah, man. Well, hey, this has been great. I've really enjoyed it. We had some good conversations. And as my wife and I progress, and as you progress in what you're doing, there was actually a couple of parts that you had actually talked about that I would love to talk more about with you another time. And we'll talk offline. But sure. Hey, man, this has been great. Thanks for being on the podcast. And everybody listening and watching, hey, thanks for joining. Thanks for watching. And we'll see you next time.
See you later, guys. Bye.